What's up, Kadivas, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you've been well. This is going to be a pattern tutorial where I show how to manipulate a dart on the front of a bodice. In this video, I'm going to be showing 5 different points where you can move your darts to depending on the style of your garment. This is something that is fairly straightforward to do, and I thought it would be fun to add to our catalog of videos on the channel. If you'd like to find out more about this, make sure to keep on watching, give this video a thumbs up, and let's get into it. This video was inspired by a comment I got under a previous video, and it was around the question of dart manipulation. Now, what is dart manipulation? This is essentially the art of moving an existing dart to a different part of the bodice. This, I'm going to be showing 5 different ways that you can do it, but there are many ways that you can add a style to a bodice depending on the desired effect that you want to have or the seams that you want to keep on your garment. Now I'm going to be working with my front bodice. This one actually created from the tutorial where I showed how to drape a bodice on your body. If you haven't seen that already, please go watch that, because from that project I developed this pattern that has a dart on the waist and around the arm, which is a perfect kind of bodice to use to show you guys this video. I also have my measuring tape, my paper, scissors, pen, set square pattern master, and you'll also be needing some sellotape as well as more pattern paper and a tracing wheel. Now the first style I'm going to be showing is how to move the dart from where it is now to along the shoulder. I'm just going here to mark the middle point along that shoulder seam, and I'm going to draw a line that goes from the bust point to that shoulder seam. The key with pivoting or manipulating dart is it always has to go back to the point where the original dart starts from. So I'm just cutting away this existing dart because that's what we're going to be moving around in this video. And once that is cut out of the way, I'm going to set aside the scrap paper and then cut along the line where I want to move the dart to. So I'm going to cut as close as possible to the point and then sort of like move it or turn it in such a way to the next place where I want it to go. And then once I have it taped or secured slightly, I can go ahead and cut it all the way to the point so it's nice and flat along that point. Now this is what it looks like on the shoulder seam. This you can connect together to make a princess seam if you would like, but because we've moved that dart there is a weird looking corner, and that I'm just going to add some extra pattern paper and then smoothing out, cut away the excess paper that I don't need around this point, and then we would have gotten rid of that first dart at the starting point and moved it to the point where it is along the shoulder. When this dart is stitched up, this is what it looks like on the front bodice, which could be a really cool feature that you could add to your garment. The second place is along the bust, and this I'm just going to be drawing a line that goes from the dart point to the side seam, and then once I have that line drawn, I'm going to cut along like we did for the previous one along the shoulder, cut as close as possible to the point, and essentially just pivot or just turn it in such a way that you're moving that measurement to the other side, which in this case is the bust line. With the dart moved to the bust line like so, you could either have it like this as an open seam, or you could add some paper underneath and true the edges. Now what is truing a dart? This is essentially when you go into wherever you've moved your dart to and ensure that the edges align when they've been stitched away. Now let me explain. So here I'm just adding some paper underneath, and I'm going to fold the dart away like I have stitched it on the garment, and then I'm going to fold it downwards, and then using my tracing wheel I'm going to trace over the edges along the side seam. This is going to give me the edges that the dart should have along the side seam when it's been stitched away on the garment. This I'm just going to make clearer using my pen, and this is the way you would add or fill up your dart if you don't want to have it as an open seam like it was on the shoulder. This method can be done for whatever point that you pivot or move your dart to. If you don't want to have it, as a raw seam when you cut your dart onto your fabric, you can essentially just follow the same rule of add paper underneath, fold it away, and then use your tracing wheel Now I'm going to show another way or another place you can move your dart to, which is along the front neckline. This I'm going to be drawing a line that goes diagonal to the neckline to the bust point, and then I'm going to cut along that line, and I'm going to be moving the dart that we just added along the bust line and fold that dart away. This you can trim off or just like move like I'm doing here, and then secure that with some tape. And once that is secured, it would automatically move the dart to the neckline. This style of dart actually makes a really cool style feature on the front neckline of a shirt or a dress, because once it's been stitched away, it makes these really cool lines that go from the neck all the way to the bust point. This you could have open or have it closed off like I showed earlier on for the bust dart. Now I'm going to be moving the dart next up to go across the chest, and I'm going to be drawing a horizontal line that goes from the center front edge back to the bust line. And like we did for the previous dart, I'm essentially just going to cut along that line and cut as close as possible to the point, and then I'm going to turn it in such a way that I'm closing off the neck dart and then moving it to the center front edge. Once this dart is all stitched up, it makes a really cool inverted T shape on the front of the bodice. The final type of dart I'm going to be showing is one that is diagonal to the bust, and for this one I am going to be drawing it so it goes towards the waistline. So like I've done for the previous ones, I'm going to draw a diagonal line that goes from the bust point down to my waistline. I'm going to cut that open, and then I'm going to close off the previous dart we did, which is the one across the chest, use some tape to secure it down, and then that opens up the side dart here. After this dart is stitched up, it makes a diagonal seam that goes from the bust point to the waistline, as you can see in the little diagram on the bottom of the screen. This you can have open or you can close it up, and I'm just going to show you guys the sort of shape that it makes along the edges once it's been covered up around the middle. Now I've added some paper underneath and I have taped it down, and like we did for the bust dart, I'm going to fold it in and down like this, like it's been stitched away on fabric. Then I'm going to use my tracing wheel to just draw along the side seam, and then once that's done I'll open it up. And because the tracing wheel has punctured holes on the paper, I'm essentially just going to make those lines clearer with my marker pen and my set square, and that's what the edge of this type of dart would look like. With my paper scissors, I'm just going in here to cut off any excess paper that I don't want along the side seam of this dart. This is the fifth of many ways of how you could pivot or manipulate your dart on a bodice. There are some other cool ways where you can make it asymmetric, add in new style lengths, divide your bodice in really cool dimensions. But I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. This is something that has been on my mind to do, and I'm glad I got around doing it. Leave any other video suggestions you might have in the comment section down below. And until next time, have a good morning, afternoon, and evening wherever you are. Bye.